Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to this channel. It's been a couple of weeks since I made that last video. If you haven't watched it yet, go check it out. I'll also put the link down on my Substack below if you want to read any of my blog posts. Untold and often overlooked stories from U.S. history, stuff that doesn't really get talked about a lot in school or doesn't really get acknowledged as much as I think it should be. With that said, I just finished this spring semester up. My GPA got raised up to 3.0, which I'm very proud of all the hard work. And I have a couple classes this summer, but this summer I also have a couple of readings that I'm going to go through. They're quite long, but they're 3 biographies by Chernow. If you're not familiar who that is, he's a historian and biographer who's written like multiple books throughout the last 20 or 30 years or so, but one of his most famous biographies, in my opinion, would have to be the one on Alexander Hamilton that was published in 2004, and the one that was the sort of source of inspiration for Lin-Manuel Miranda's blockbuster musical that came out on Broadway in 2015. And back in 2015, I was 12 years old, and I was living in California. I'd gotten interested in like the American Revolution in that during that time. I started watching like movies like The Patriot and TV shows like Turn Washington Spies, and that's kind of sort of what my blog is about. I talk about history. I try to provide context, but then I also take you to those moments and how they were portrayed in popular culture. And it's not just the American Revolution alone. There are some Civil War stories that are portrayed in movies that I'm going to write more about in the near future. But in regards to the musical Hamilton, I did not get a chance to go all the way to New York City and watch it with the original cast in 2015. I may have heard about it on the news or something, or I may have read it in an article, but I had this thing that I really enjoyed doing growing up, and in a way I still do, but I liked reading articles and like reviews and recaps of episodes from specific TV shows. And during that time, I started watching the series Turn Washington Spies. That was on AMC, and it's about George Washington's secret spy ring that helped him win the war. I think I was on the second season then, or I was getting to season 3, and that season ended with Benedict Arnold's betrayal. But I was reading an episode, and I was reading article about an episode, and they talked about Alexander Hamilton, and they mentioned, I scrolled through and I saw something about a musical. I'm like, wait, they have a musical on Alexander Hamilton? I'm like, I did not know that. And I thought to myself at the time, like, I wasn't really into theater. I guess because I didn't really attend a lot of plays growing up. I did go see a production of Lion King in Las Vegas in 2013. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't think it was good. But then again, I didn't think the cartoon movie was good either. But that was just my take on it. It wasn't until I saw movies like Sound of Music and Pitch Perfect, movies with kind of musical elements, that I started to really get into the whole like musical vibes a little more. But I did get a chance to watch Hamilton in 2020 during COVID, when it was streamed on Disney Plus. So that was like, I feel like that was a moment that changed my life, and I started like watching clips of it on YouTube. You can literally find clips of the Disney Plus version of Hamilton on YouTube. But I came across clips of them like a few years ago. It's like my freshman year of college. And it's just like that phase started coming back, and like I wanted to read that biography again, so I did. And then I read it, and I was just blown away by it. I'm just blown away by his story and all the challenges that he had to endure and all the obstacles that seemed to be piling on his ambitions to get ahead in life. And as someone who had to deal with multiple challenges with my cerebral palsy and autism, and the fact that I had to work just as hard as my peers, that his story really resonates with me a lot. I do think he was one of the most hardworking founding fathers. I'm not saying the other founding fathers weren't hardworking. Ben Franklin was self-made, and so was George Washington, and so was John Adams and Thomas Jefferson and everyone else. But Hamilton really had to work, like he really had to grind his way ahead in society, right? And America afforded him with the opportunities that he wasn't able to get when he was growing up in the Caribbean. So I'm reading Ron Chernow's books this summer. I'm reading the Hamilton biography. I'm reading his George Washington biography. And then I'm also, most recently, he released a new book on Mark Twain. So I'm going to read that as well. I also have 3-volume books on letters between Jefferson and Madison, that basically a series of letters that they wrote to each other for 50 years between 1776 and 1826, or like when Thomas Jefferson dies. And what's interesting about that is that James Madison, who lived another decade after Adams and Jefferson, he almost made it to July 4th, but because doctors wanted to like give him some medicine that would help him live until that holiday, and he was like, no. So he ended up dying on June 28th, 1836. The last president who died on July 4th was James Monroe in 1831. I think he died at like 73 or 70 years old, or he was in his 70s when he died, but it was from tuberculosis. And we've only had 3 presidents who died on July 4th, which was always fascinating to me. So anyway, that's just what I wanted to tell you all about today. If you haven't checked my videos yet, or if you want to subscribe to this channel, please click the like and subscribe button. I'll put the link to my Substack down below. Thanks for watching.